Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking at a smartphone repair.
Okay.
Specifically, a Huawei P30 Pro repair. And the interesting thing about this one is that it looks like the customer mailed it in for repair.
Interesting.
So the sources that we have are a YouTube video from a place called Sydney CBD Repair Center. And they actually show the phone being repaired in the video.
Oh, cool.
And then we also have what looks like an FAQ from their website talking about their mail-in repair service.
Gotcha.
So right off the bat in the video, they show this P30 Pro, and it is beat up.
Oh, really?
It's got mismatched parts. There's like a silver housing and a blue back. And
a Frankenphone?
Yeah, a total Frankenphone. And they even say in the video, you know, like, oh, this thing's been worked on before. There are a lot of signs of previous repairs.
But that makes you wonder, like, why is this phone still kicking around? You know, like, why are they still trying to repair this thing? It must have some value to them.
Yeah, you would think at a certain point you just give up and get a new phone, especially with how beat up this one is. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And then the other interesting thing is that the shop is in Sydney.
Okay.
But in the video, they say this is for a mail-in repair customer. And the package is actually addressed from Victoria.
Wow, so they mailed it across the country.
Yeah.
So that means that there's no one in Victoria that can do this repair, or at least no one that they trust to do the repair.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in their FAQ, it actually says that they do this mail-in service specifically for customers in Victoria.
Huh, so they've got a whole system set up.
It seems like it.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so they're targeting customers that are far away.
That's wild. Why do you think they're doing that?
I don't know. Maybe there aren't that many shops in Victoria that can fix Huawei phones.
That's possible. Or maybe the shop in Sydney is just that good.
Yeah, maybe they have a reputation or something.
That makes sense. I mean, if you were going to ship your phone across the country, you'd want to make sure it was going to best, right?
Exactly. You'd want someone you could trust.
Absolutely.
So another detail from the video that I thought was really interesting was while they're showing the phone, the technician actually says that the customer wants to keep this P30 Pro because it has really good quality cameras.
Oh, so it's not just about like holding onto an old phone, it's about the features.
Yeah, exactly. They want to keep using it because the cameras are that good.
That's interesting. Like even with all the new phones coming out, they still prefer the camera on this older model.
Yeah, I mean, we all have those features on our phones that we just can't live without, right?
Absolutely.
Like maybe the battery life or the size or whatever. But for this person, it's the camera.
That's cool. It shows that sometimes older tech can still hold its own.
Totally. So it looks like we're going to get a good look at the actual repair process in the YouTube video. The YouTube video doesn't really talk about the mail-in process at all, but the FAQ does.
Okay, so the FAQ can fill in some of those gaps.
Yeah.
Nice.
So we'll be able to see kind of like the whole journey of this phone.
Cool. This is going to be good. I can't wait to see what else we find out.
Me too.
Okay, so where should we start?
Let's start with the repair itself, and then we can look at the mail-in process afterward.
Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
All right. So, like I said, they show the whole repair in the video, and the first thing that stuck out to me was how carefully they take the phone apart.
Okay.
Like the technician's wearing gloves.
Oh, wow. So they're really being careful.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to avoid getting any dust or fingerprints or anything on the components.
Makes sense. I mean, those things are pretty sensitive.
Totally. And then they start removing the old screen, which is totally shattered.
Mm.
And the technician even mentions, like, there are shards of glass everywhere.
Ouch. So this was not a minor repair.
Definitely not. This phone has been through a lot.
I wonder what happened to it.
Yeah, me too. But it definitely looks like a tricky repair.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to try that myself.
Me neither. I'd probably just make things worse.
Came here. I'll leave it to the professionals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after they get the old screen off, they start cleaning up all the broken glass, and they even mention that there's some damage to the housing from previous repairs.
Oh, really? So they have to fix that too?
Yeah, it seems like they're trying to get everything back in tip-top shape.
Wow, they're really going the extra mile.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It's starting to make sense why the customer would ship their phone all the way across the country for this.
Right. Like they clearly know what they're doing.
Exactly. They're not just slapping on a new screen and calling it a day. They're really taking the time to do it right.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like, how much expertise is actually involved in these repairs.
For sure. It's not just about swapping out parts. There's clearly a lot of skill and knowledge involved.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that a lot of people don't realize.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Like, we take our phones for granted, But when something goes wrong, it can be really complicated to fix.
Absolutely. And it's only getting more complicated as phones get more and more advanced. So I guess that's where specialized repair shops like this one come in.
Yeah, it seems like they're filling a really important niche.
Totally. All right, so we've seen how they take the phone apart and clean everything up. What happens next?
So next, they start putting on the new screen. And again, they're being super careful with everything.
Okay.
They have to line everything up perfectly and make sure there are no bubbles or dust or anything under the screen.
That sounds tricky.
Yeah, it looks like it takes a lot of patience and precision.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want to mess that up.
Definitely not. Especially after all the work they've already done.
Exactly. All right, so they've got the new screen on. What's next?
Well, they have to make sure that it actually works.
Of course.
So they power up the phone and test all the different functions.
Like the touch screen and the camera and everything?
Yep, all of that. And they even mention in the video that they test the cameras specifically because that's what the customer was most concerned about.
Oh, that's a nice touch. They're really paying attention to the customer's needs.
Yeah, I thought so too. It shows that they're not just going through the motions. They really care about doing a good job.
That's awesome. I'm really impressed with this shop.
Me too. These seem like the real deal.
Totally. All right, so they've tested everything and it all works. What happens now?
So now they have to put the phone back together.
Okay.
And this is where the new adhesive comes in.
Ah, so that's how they keep the phone sealed up.
Yep. And they have to apply it really carefully to make sure there are no gaps or anything.
Gotcha. I bet that's tricky.
It looks like it. They have to make sure it's evenly distributed and that there's not too much or too little.
So it's a delicate balance?
Exactly. And then once the adhesive is in place, they carefully put the back of the phone on and press everything together.
Okay.
And that's pretty much it for the repair itself.
Wow, that was fascinating.
I know, right? It's amazing how much work goes into fixing something like a smartphone.
It really is. It makes you appreciate those tiny devices even more.
Totally.
All right, so we've seen the repair. Now let's talk about the mail-in process.
Sounds good to me.
Let's do it. Okay, so the FAQ actually has a whole section on packaging and shipping.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it says they provide like a special box and some padding to make sure the phone is protected during shipping.
That makes sense. You wouldn't want it bouncing around in there.
Right. And they even include a prepaid shipping label so the customer doesn't have to worry about any of that.
That's convenient.
Yeah, it seems like they've really thought of everything.
They have. I'm impressed.
Me too. So once the phone's all packaged up, the customer just has to drop it off at the post office.
Okay, and then what?
Well, the FAQ says they aim to have the repair done within 3 business days of receiving the phone.
Wow, it's pretty fast.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Especially considering they have to ship it back to Victoria afterward.
Right, that's impressive.
And they even offer a 6-month warranty on the repair.
Oh, wow. So they really stand behind their work.
Yeah, it seems like they're confident in their abilities.
That's great. It definitely gives you peace of mind as a customer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when you're sending your phone across the country.
So it seems like there are a lot of benefits to using a mail-in repair service like this.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's convenient. You don't have to leave your house and, you're getting a high quality repair from a reputable shop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I guess there's some downsides too.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest one is probably the wait time.
Yeah. You have to wait for the phone to be shipped there and back.
Right. And that could take a while depending on where you live.
And there's always the risk that something could happen to the phone during shipping.
True. It could get lost or damaged.
Yeah. But I guess that's a risk with any kind of shipping.
That's true. And it seems like this shop is doing everything they can to minimize that risk with the special packaging and everything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So overall, I think the benefits probably outweigh the risks.
Yeah, I'd say so. Especially if you're dealing with a specialized repair like this one.
Right. Because if you can't find anyone local who can fix your phone, then shipping it across the country might be your only option.
Exactly. And in that case, it's good to know that there are shops like this one that can handle it.
Totally. Okay, so we've talked about the repair itself and the mail-in process. What else do we want to cover?
Well, I think it would be interesting to look at the tracking information for this phone.
Oh, yeah, we have those tracking numbers, right?
Yep. We have the tracking number for when the phone was shipped from Victoria to Sydney, and then another tracking number for when it was shipped back from Sydney to Victoria.
Awesome. So we can actually see the phone's journey.
Exactly. We can see where it went, how long it took, and all that.
That's so cool. I love that we have this level of detail.
Me too. It really brings this story to life.
It does. All right, so let's pull up those tracking numbers and see what we can find out.
Okay, here's the tracking number for the first leg of the journey from Victoria to Sydney.
Okay, let me see if I can pull that up on the Australia Post website.
Okay, great. It looks like the phone was shipped on December 20th.
Okay. And it arrived in Sydney on December 22nd.
Oh, so that was pretty quick.
Yeah, only 2 days in transit. That's not bad at all.
Especially considering it was going all the way across the country.
Right. And it looks like it went through a couple of sorting facilities along the way.
Interesting. So it wasn't just a straight shot from Victoria to Sydney.
Nope. It had to make a few stops along the way.
Okay, that makes sense.
All right, now let's look at the tracking number for the return trip from Sydney to Victoria.
All right, here it is.
Okay, got it. Let's see. It looks like the phone was shipped back on December 24th.
So 2 days after it arrived in Sydney.
Yeah, that's consistent with what the FAQ said about their turnaround time.
Right. They said they aim to have repairs done within 3 business days.
Exactly. So they were right on schedule.
Awesome. And it looks like the phone arrived back in Victoria on December 26th.
Perfect. So just in time for Christmas.
That's great. I'm sure the customer was happy to have their phone back.
I bet they were, especially with those awesome cameras.
Right. They must have been itching to take some pictures.
Totally. So all in all, it looks like the whole mail-in process went pretty smoothly.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It seems like a really efficient system.
Yeah, and it's definitely a good option for people who need specialized repairs and don't have any local options.
Totally. So I think we've covered all the major points here.
Yeah, I think so. We've seen the repair, the mail-in process, the tracking information. What else is there?
Well, there's one more thing.
Oh, what's that?
Remember how we talked about this P30 Pro being a real Frankenphone? With all the mismatched parts and signs of previous repairs?
Yeah.
Well, it turns out that this wasn't the first time this phone had been sent in for repair.
Really? So this phone has a history?
Yeah, it's been through a lot.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder what other repairs it's had.
Me too.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what the story behind this phone is.
Yeah, like why is the customer so attached to it? What makes it so special?
That's a good question. And I guess we'll never know the full story.
Probably not. But it's fun to speculate.
It is. And it just goes to show that there's more to these devices than meets the eye.
Absolutely. They can hold a lot of sentimental value.
Totally. All right, so I think that's a good place to wrap things up for this part.
Yeah, I think so. We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have. And it's been fascinating to see the whole journey of this P30 Pro from Victoria to Sydney and back again.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of technology and the skill of those who can fix it.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's like this phone has a whole secret life, you know, like a history that we're only just getting a glimpse of.
Right. Like, what if this P30 Pro could tell us all the places it's been, all the pictures it's taken?
Yeah, it would be like a window into someone's life.
Exactly. And the fact that they keep repairing it just makes it even more intriguing.
It does. It's like they're not ready to let go of those memories just yet.
Totally. So what do you think? What kind of repairs do you think it's had in the past?
Well, I mean, the obvious one is probably a battery replacement. Batteries tend to wear out over time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Especially if they're using those cameras a lot.
Right. Taking pictures and videos all the time, that definitely drains the battery.
For sure. What else? Maybe a screen replacement.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If it's been dropped a few times, the screen is probably cracked.
And they mentioned in the video that the housing was damaged from previous repairs, so maybe it's had multiple screen replacements.
Yeah, that's possible. Or maybe it's had other kinds of physical damage, like a dented corner or something.
Yeah, maybe. And those kinds of repairs can get pretty expensive.
They can, especially if you're using genuine parts.
Right. So the fact that this customer keeps paying for these repairs really says something about how much they value this phone.
It does. It's not just a device to them. It's something more.
Yeah, it's like an extension of themselves.
Totally. And I think that's becoming more and more common as our phones become such an integral part of our lives.
Absolutely. We use them for everything: communication, entertainment, work, even managing our health.
Exactly. So it makes sense that we would develop an emotional attachment to them.
For sure. And when something goes wrong with them, it's like losing a part of ourselves.
Yeah, it can be really frustrating.
Totally. But I guess that's where repair shops like this one come in.
Right. They can help us get our phones back to working order and preserve those memories and connections.
Exactly. And it's not just about the technical skills they have.
Yeah.
It's also about the customer service.
Yeah, that's a good point. The shop in the video seems to be really customer focused.
They do. They clearly care about doing a good job and making sure their customers are happy.
And that's probably a big part of why this customer keeps coming back to them.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's like they've built a relationship of trust.
Totally. And that's something that's really valuable in today's world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's worth taking a moment to appreciate the bigger picture here.
Okay.
We started out looking at a smartphone repair, but I think we've uncovered something much more profound.
Like what?
I think we've seen a glimpse into the changing relationship between people and their devices.
Yeah, that's true. We're becoming more and more reliant on our phones.
And I think that's leading to a shift in our values.
How so?
Well, we're starting to see our devices as more than just disposable gadgets.
Right, we're starting to value longevity and repairability.
Exactly. And I think that's a good thing.
Me too. It's more sustainable for the environment and it's more meaningful for us as individuals.
Totally.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Is this the future of technology?
I think it has to be. We can't keep churning out new devices every year. It's just not sustainable.
I agree. We need to find ways to make our devices last longer and be more repairable.
And I think we're starting to see that happen. More and more companies are offering repair services and designing their products with repairability in mind.
That's great to hear. It's a step in the right direction.
It is. And I think this P30 Pro is a perfect example of that. It's a phone that's been replaced multiple times and it's still going strong.
It's a survivor.
It is. And I think it's a symbol of hope for a more sustainable future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So for all of you listening out there, the next time your phone breaks, don't just throw it away. Think about getting it repaired. It might just surprise you how much life it has left in it.
And you might just be surprised at how much you care about keeping it around.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
If you want your smartphone fixed for a very reasonable price, you may contact Sydney CBD Repair Center. We also provide mail-in repair services for customers outside of Australia or Sydney. Just message us so we can arrange the shipping of your device.